Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Please be seated. Look around this lecture hall for a moment. What do you see? Walls standing firm, seats arranged in orderly rows. You sitting quietly, listening. Everything appears still, peaceful even. But I must tell you something remarkable. This appearance is a magnificent deception. At this very moment, in every chair, every wall, in your own bodies, there are forces at work beyond anything you can imagine. If such forces were unleashed, even partially, this building would not remain standing. You think I exaggerate? I assure you I do not. What I describe is not fantasy, but physics. The mystery we shall explore today is not why such forces exist, but why they remain hidden. Why does matter appear so calm and stable when it contains such extraordinary power? We shall begin not with atoms, those are too small to see, but with something simpler. A thought experiment involving ordinary electrical charges. Imagine, if you will, a great cathedral, a dome of stone. The stones press against one another with enormous weight. Yet, when you stand beneath such a dome, you feel nothing. The structure appears serene, even delicate. In matter, something similar happens, but with forces incomparably greater. Suppose we could take two small objects, perhaps the size of grapefruits, and give one of them a slight excess of positive electric charge, and the other a slight excess of negative charge. Only a modest imbalance compared with the vast number of charges inside normal matter. If we separated these objects by, say, the width of this room, what would happen? The attraction would be astonishing. And if both objects carried excess positive charge, the repulsion could be strong enough to hurl one of them violently away. The electrical force, you see, is not weak. It is almost absurdly strong. Yet you sit in your chairs, composed of countless positive and negative charges, and from across the room you feel no great electric pull or push at all. How is this possible? The answer lies in what I will call the mixing principle. This is not an official term, merely my own description. In ordinary matter, positive and negative charges are not separated into large lumps. They are mixed together with extraordinary precision, so that the net electric charge almost perfectly cancels. From a distance, the electric field of ordinary matter is essentially zero. And yet, at short distances, these same charges are responsible for nearly everything you call solid. Chemistry, friction, the strength of your chair, the firmness of this wall. The forces are enormous, but in neutral matter they balance so well that the net charge does not announce itself at large scales. If you could disturb that balance, if you could peel away even a tiny fraction of electrons from a large amount of matter, the remaining imbalance would create forces of catastrophic magnitude. This is why matter appears peaceful, not because the forces within it are weak, but because they are strong and exquisitely balanced. Now, let us look more carefully at the atom itself. The electron is a small, negatively charged particle bound to a positively charged nucleus. The old picture draws it as a planet in orbit. The modern picture is different. An electron occupies a quantum cloud. But the puzzle remains the same. Why does the electron not simply fall into the nucleus? Opposite charges attract. At such tiny distances, the attraction is enormous. What prevents collapse? Some of you might think the electron is moving, so it stays up like a planet around the sun. But this classical explanation fails. An orbiting planet does not radiate away its energy in any appreciable way. But an accelerating electric charge must radiate electromagnetic waves. In classical physics, the electron would lose energy, spiral inward, and crash into the nucleus in about 10 trillionths of a second, on the order of 10 to the minus 11th seconds, a few tenths of picoseconds. Yet atoms are stable. They persist for billions of years. Why? The answer comes from quantum mechanics. Werner Heisenberg showed that nature forbids perfect knowledge of certain pairs of quantities. You cannot know both where something is and how fast it moves with arbitrary precision. Greater certainty in one brings greater uncertainty in the other. Imagine trying to corner someone in a crowded room. The smaller the corner into which you force them, the more desperately and unpredictably they move to escape. The electron behaves in a related way. If you confine it to an extremely small region near the nucleus, its momentum must become large and uncertain. It cannot be both tightly pinned in place and peacefully at rest. This unavoidable quantum motion creates an effective outward pressure that balances the electrical attraction pulling inward. The size of the atom emerges from this compromise. Electricity pulling in, quantum mechanics preventing complete confinement. But now we must look deeper into the nucleus itself. Inside this tiny core, we have protons, each carrying positive charge. And positive charges repel one another. So why does the nucleus not simply explode? Because there exists another force in nature operating only at extremely short distances, about 1 to 2 femtometers, roughly the size of the nucleus itself. We call it the strong nuclear force, a powerful short-range grip that binds protons and neutrons together. At these tiny separations, it overwhelms the electrical repulsion, but its reach is very limited. Think of a tug of war. One team is extraordinarily strong, but has very short arms. They can only pull when they are essentially face to face. The other team is less strong, but has long arms. They can pull from far away. The strong force is the team with short arms. The electric force is the team with long arms. In a small nucleus, everyone is close together, and the strong force wins. But as nuclei grow larger, the situation becomes delicate. Consider how nature builds heavier atoms. Hydrogen, 1 proton. Helium, 2 protons, 2 neutrons, very stable. Carbon, 6 protons, still manageable. Nuclei around iron and nickel are among the most tightly bound of all. But as we add more protons, something insidious happens. The strong force can only bind near neighbors. A proton feels strong force attraction mainly from nucleons right beside it. But it feels electrical repulsion from every other proton in the nucleus, even those on the far side. Here, an analogy must be chosen carefully. The pressure in water does not depend on how much water you have, but on how deep you are beneath the surface. A taller column of water means greater pressure below. In a similar spirit, a larger nucleus creates a larger cumulative electrical stress. Every added proton contributes repulsion that reaches across the whole nucleus. This is why stability has limits. Lead, with 82 protons, is the last element that has any truly stable isotopes. Everything heavier than lead is radioactive, sometimes extremely long-lived but not stable. We can create heavier elements in laboratories, yes, but they decay. Uranium with 92 protons is an example of a heavy nucleus under strain. Some of its isotopes can exist for billions of years, yet they are still unstable, always one step away from decay, or, under the right conditions, fission. Now we come to the crucial insight. When you have positive charges forced close together against their natural inclination to fly apart, you have stored energy. This is not mysterious. It is like compressing a spring. You do work to squeeze it, and that work becomes potential energy waiting to be released. A heavy nucleus is like a tightly wound spring. Many protons want to separate. The strong force holds them together, and the energy stored in this arrangement is extraordinary. Compare nuclear energy to chemical energy. Chemistry rearranges electrons. Nuclear processes rearrange the nucleus itself. On a per mass basis, nuclear reactions can release millions of times more energy than chemical reactions. And this energy sits locked away, inaccessible through ordinary heating or chemical change, because chemistry barely touches the nucleus. But if you disturb the nucleus itself, suppose we take a fissile nucleus, uranium-235 for example, and give it a small nudge by letting it absorb a neutron. The nucleus becomes unstable and can split into two fragments. Each fragment carries substantial positive charge. And what do two positively charged fragments do? They flee from one another. With the electrical repulsion that was once held in check, they fly apart at tremendous speed. This is fission. The energy released is largely the electrical potential energy of many protons packed together. When the structure breaks, that potential energy becomes kinetic energy, motion, and then heat. The fragments after the split are medium mass nuclei, and they are generally more tightly bound than the original very heavy nucleus. The final state has less stored energy than the initial state, and the difference is what is released. There is, however, a mirror image to fission. Nuclei around iron and nickel sit near the bottom of an energy valley. If you start with something heavier than that and split it, you move down toward the valley and release energy. But if you start with something lighter, hydrogen for example, and force nuclei together, you also move down toward the valley and release energy. This process is called fusion. It is difficult to achieve because you must overcome the electrical repulsion to bring positive charges close enough for the strong force to grab them. But once you succeed, fusion can release even more energy per kilogram than fission. And this brings us to a remarkable connection: the sun. You have all felt its warmth. Where does that energy come from? No chemical fuel could sustain such output for so long. The answer is fusion. Deep in the sun's core, hydrogen nuclei are pressed together by immense temperature and pressure, and they fuse into helium. Each fusion releases a tiny amount of energy, but there are so many reactions that the total power is staggering. The sun has been shining for about 4.6 billion years. It will shine for roughly another 5 billion. And the heavier elements, where do they come from? Ordinary stellar fusion can build elements up to around iron, but beyond that, making heavier nuclei by fusion requires energy rather than releasing it. To create the heaviest elements, nature needs violent neutron-rich events in which nuclei can capture neutrons rapidly and then decay back towards stability. In such cosmic catastrophes, such as neutron star mergers and perhaps certain rare kinds of supernovae, elements like gold, uranium, and many others are forged. So nuclear physics connects to everything: why stars shine, where the elements come from, why the universe looks as it does. Ladies and gentlemen, let us return to where we began. This lecture hall, these chairs, your bodies. Everything you see around you is ordinary matter. It sits quietly. It does not glow, does not hum, and it gives no hint of what it contains. But now you know the truth. Inside every atom in this room, there is a nucleus under stress. Protons press together against electrical repulsion. Enormous forces held in a near-perfect balance. And in that balance lies stored energy on a scale that dwarfs anything we access through chemistry. When I first understood this, truly understood it, I felt a kind of awe. Not fear precisely, though there is something fearsome in it. Awe at the elegance of nature. That matter can appear so solid and so stable while containing such power. We are surrounded by, indeed composed of, this hidden fire. Every atom a tiny arena of forces and energy. And yet, in our daily lives, everything remains calm, balanced, still. Until, of course, we learn to disturb that balance. But that is a topic for another day, and perhaps one better left to political leaders than to physicists. Thank you for your attention. I hope you leave here today seeing the world a bit differently. The stillness around you is not an absence of force, but the most perfect balance of tremendous forces. Good afternoon.